A fast-moving snowstorm is on its way, and for many of you, this will bring the first accumulating snow of the season. We will begin by reviewing the timeline for this event, and then we will discuss how much snow your area can expect to receive from this system. After that, we will look further into next week and the beginning of December to see what might be on the horizon and if there are any other storm systems we need to watch. I want to go over the important time frames with you, explain the overall weather pattern, and simply share my enjoyment of the topic with all of you, because I believe most of you know how much I enjoy discussing winter weather. Good Thursday evening to you. I hope you are all doing well. If you find this information helpful, please consider subscribing, and of course, I always appreciate when you like the video. And as always, if there is anything I can keep in my thoughts and prayers for you, please feel free to leave a note in the comments below. First, let's take a look at the current conditions. I am recording this video at approximately 6:15. That is 6:15 Eastern Time, and we do have some snow beginning to fall. Even though the radar shows blue, which indicates snow, not all of this is reaching the ground as snowflakes. We are seeing some sleet mixed with snow and rain, particularly as you go farther south into Middle Tennessee. I would be interested to hear what you are seeing in your community. Some moisture is also moving up into Kentucky, where there is certainly colder air in place, so whatever is reaching the ground there is most likely falling as snow. The radar also shows some moisture entering southwest Virginia. At this very moment, it is difficult to say exactly what is hitting the ground there, but this is our storm system. This is the moisture field, and you can see some areas of yellow, which indicates heavier precipitation. If this heavier moisture can move north and interact with the cold air we have in place, we could see some heavy, wet snow. So, these are the current conditions on the live radar, and here is the latest information on watches, warnings, and advisories. Well, at present, there are no warnings in effect. I mentioned earlier that some areas could be upgraded to winter storm warnings, but as of right now, that has not happened. I also thought earlier this morning that we might see some winter weather advisories issued for Nashville and points north, but that is not the case at this time. These areas in a bluish-green color are under special weather statements for a wintry mix, which is currently in progress. However, the core of the approaching system is right here. Winter weather advisories are in effect from just south of Asheville all the way up through the Boone and Banner Elk area. They now also include the northern sections of North Carolina, such as Greensboro and Winston-Salem. The Durham and Raleigh areas are not under a winter weather advisory at this time. The advisory does include Petersburg up to Roanoke, Richmond. Roanoke is over here to the west, as well as Lynchburg and Charlottesville. We now have winter weather advisories posted for the Baltimore and Washington District of Columbia areas, extending into southern Maryland and the Tidewater and Delmarva region. Technically, there are no winter weather advisories in Delaware as of this moment, but I can tell you that the latest trends do suggest more winter weather farther to the north. We will discuss that in more detail as we move through the video. So, to summarize, there are no winter storm warnings right now, only the winter weather advisories shown here in purple. Let's examine the latest forecast model. This is our short-range model, which often gives us a good idea of what the real-time radar will look like. We will begin the timeline around 8 o'clock in the evening, Eastern Time. If you lose track of the time, please just look at the timestamp at the top of the screen, as I may forget to mention it at some points. This will be a quick-moving system. So, we move forward in time, and we begin to see if we can get this moving for you. There we go. Just a few short hours from now, you can see it is still snowing quite heavily in eastern. Snow is falling all the way up into Beckley and Charleston. If you live in Charleston, please say hello. And if you are a fan of snow, I certainly hope this storm reaches you. If you are a snow enthusiast in Charleston, I hope this makes it to you, because that area of West Virginia can sometimes be shielded from winter weather due to its lower elevation. In any case, let's continue moving forward. The snow begins to push into the southwestern sections of Virginia, and then we see a change to some heavy, wet snow down in the Boone and Banner Elk area. The latest high-resolution model does not show much winter weather reaching Asheville or places like Waynesville and Hendersonville, but we could certainly begin with a wintry mix. The discussion for the winter weather advisory in that area states that elevations really need to be above 3,500 feet. We will see what happens, but it appears to be starting as plain rain in Winston-Salem. And in Greensboro, it could eventually change to snow as we get some dynamic cooling, which is when the atmosphere cools down as precipitation falls, allowing heavy rain to transition into a burst of heavy snow. But it is snowing in Roanoke. Let's move the map a little closer. It is snowing in Lynchburg, though it could begin as a little rain in those areas. And in Blacksburg, we are seeing very heavy snow. Let's widen the view again. We will continue to move forward until about 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning. The system continues its path, and you can see the rain-snow line begins to drop a little farther south, down into the Greensboro and Winston-Salem area. For Raleigh and Durham, it remains just rain. In Danville, it is now snowing. In Richmond, it is now snowing. Petersburg is snowing, as is Charlottesville. In Fredericksburg, snow is now reaching all the way up to the Washington District of Columbia area. Winchester is still seeing snow, as are some areas back in eastern Kentucky. As for whether it will switch to a period of snow in the Tri-Cities area, including Johnson City and Bristol, I do believe you will see a little snow from this. And I should mention, let's go back for a moment, as I do not want to completely forget our friends in Tennessee. There is still some winter weather falling around 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning tonight here in Middle Tennessee. You could still be dealing with a light wintry mix, but the main part of the system will have since moved into the mid-Atlantic states. As we continue to move this forward to about 5 o'clock, before the sun has risen, we see more of a wintry, icy mix. This is the time I believe we could see some freezing rain in the Boone and Banner Elk area. You might get a quick inch or two of snow, followed by a coating of ice. It is still snowing in Richmond and Petersburg. The question is whether you will switch over to snow in Norfolk, Chesapeake, or the general Hampton Roads area. We will have to watch that rain-snow line, and it appears sleet is falling just north of Rocky Mount, and the Durham and Raleigh area. How far south will this line drop? The general theme we are seeing is that this system has been trending so quickly that the cold air has not had sufficient time to settle in. The cold air is arriving at the same time as the moisture, so the system is somewhat outrunning its cold air source. This means the moisture is winning out, while the cold air is not quite keeping up in the southern areas. However, once you get into Virginia, there is plenty of cold air. By 5 o'clock in the morning, it is now snowing in Baltimore and Washington. Snow is falling across all of southern Maryland and the Tidewater area. In Salisbury, you are getting snow. In Dover, it is now snowing. The snow is reaching all the way up to Atlantic City on this latest high-resolution model run. Then, as we continue to about 8 o'clock, snow is still flying throughout the southern parts of West Virginia and Virginia. It is still snowing in Richmond. When we advance the clock to about 10 o'clock in the morning, we still have a wintry mix ongoing in certain areas, but the blue on the map still represents snow. For some locations, it will be snowing for several hours. This is at 10 o'clock in the morning. That is tomorrow morning. It will be snowing all the way up into areas of Philadelphia, Wilmington, and Dover. And if we look at the latest forecast run, yes, it continues to trend northward. For example, here is the current forecast for 8 o'clock in the morning. And if we compare that to the previous forecast for the same time, I believe we are seeing a small shift to the north. You can see that slight nudge to the north that has occurred. So I want to continue to monitor that. If we go back and look at an earlier forecast model, there is not a significant difference, but we will keep this playing so we can see the full life cycle of this system. It appears that it never quite reaches Long Island. So that is the system. Now let's go over the forecast snow amounts. Using the latest information, we will update some of these graphics. And it does not appear to have changed at all. For eastern Kentucky, we are forecasting 1 to 2 inches in Hazard and Pikeville and 1 to 3 inches in Black Mountain. Harland can expect 1 to 2 inches, and Middlesboro is also looking at 1 to 2 inches. I believe we could also see a bit of light snow in the Cumberland Plateau. In fact, I am going to check that for you right now. I meant to pull this particular map up earlier. Let me see if I can locate the proper information for you. I was hoping to bring up the Middle Tennessee forecast there. I do believe some light snowfall accumulations are possible. You know what? I cannot leave you wondering. I must pull this up. It would bother me too much not to be thorough. Let's take a look at this together. Let's look at the snow forecast. So, yes, indeed, there are a few tenths of an inch of snow forecast for areas like the northern Cumberland Plateau in Tennessee and just north of Knoxville. You can see these grayed out areas where we could get a few tenths of an inch of snow, perhaps up to half an inch. Someone might even get an inch, but it is most likely going to be under 1 inch. All right, So we will go back to the Greenville and Spartanburg area. Let's see if we have a new updated graphic for this region. It appears we do not. So, the forecast is for a few tenths of an inch of snow here in Hickory, Lenoir, Marion, and Burnsville, with maybe an inch in Newland. And I do think there is a possibility of freezing rain here in these orange-shaded areas, where over a tenth of an inch of freezing rain could fall. So, please watch out for some freezing rain in parts of western and southwestern North Carolina in these specific areas. Now, let's take it on up the line. I will check to see if we have an updated graphic for this next region. Yes, we do. So, I am glad I checked. It appears the forecast totals have been increased. I do not recall what the previous map showed exactly, but Roanoke is now forecast to receive 3 to 5 inches of snow. Lynchburg is closer to 4 inches. Lexington is at 4 inches, and Charlottesville at 3 inches. These amounts are getting closer to what we would consider for winter storm warning criteria. Over in Lewisburg, 4 to 5 inches. Now, Mount Airy is at 1 to 2 inches. For Wytheville, and I hope you will correct me if I am not saying that correctly, we have 3 inches of snow. Boone is expecting about 1.5 inches. Bristol is forecast for about 0.8 of an inch of snow. For Johnson City, nothing is expected. Danville is looking at 1 inch or 2, and Martinsville is at 2 to 3 inches of snow. And this snow could accumulate quite quickly, folks, but this is the latest graphic. No significant ice is expected in this area. From West Virginia, let's update this forecast, and not a great deal has changed. Beckley is at 3 inches, and Charleston? My goodness, it is certainly cold out there, folks. Let's examine how far north this band of snow might travel. We are forecasting 0.6 of an inch of snow for Logan, 1.5 inches for Grundy, and 3 inches for Snowshoe, which is expecting about 2.5 inches. Now, if we turn our attention to the Raleigh-Durham area, we are forecasting about 0.2 of an inch of snow in Durham, with Burlington, Greensboro, and Winston-Salem all expecting about 0.5 inch of snow. Roxborough is projected to receive over 1 inch, which I believe is a bit optimistic for this area, so we will monitor that closely. Let me just update this graphic to ensure we have the latest information. This is one area where the forecast is quite confident, and I believe it could snow for several hours there. Farmville and Richmond are expecting 3 inches, Petersburg is looking at 2 to 3 inches, and Williamsburg 2 inches for the Norfolk and the Hampton Roads area. I am afraid it appears you will see mostly rain. I dislike being the one to share disappointing news for our winter weather enthusiasts, but South Hill is expecting 2.5 inches of snow. Ononcock, and I do hope I am pronouncing that correctly, could see 1 inch or 2 of snow. Salisbury and Cambridge are both forecast to receive around 1 inch of snow. This is shaping up to be a nice snow event for that region. Now, let's look a little farther north. Let's update this graphic as well. Forgive me for pausing, but I want to be certain I am providing you with the most current information. For the Washington and Baltimore area, I believe we could see 0.5 inch to 1 inch of snow, particularly if this system continues to track northward. I think these totals up here have the potential to be increased to over 1 inch. Fredericksburg is forecast for 2 to 2.5 inches, and Lexington Park is at 2 inches. And there are other areas to consider as we move up into the New Jersey National Weather Service forecast area. You know, Milford could receive 1 inch. I can see, and I will just draw on the map here, I can see this particular area receiving more snow than expected. If a band of light to moderate snow can move into this region, someone could very well end up with 1 inch of accumulation. So, we will continue to analyze this situation. It is quite remarkable when you consider that some of these areas are going to experience several hours of continuous snow. If we look at the forecast for Richmond, for example, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, perhaps as many as 11 hours of snow. I am quite certain that some location is going to see higher snowfall totals than are currently forecast. I truly believe they will. Now, let's review the latest European model and see what else is on the horizon. It appears we do not have the full run of this one yet, and yes, that looks different there. Alright, let's focus our attention. So, what comes next after this storm system passes? We will begin on Sunday morning, where there will be a rather potent clipper system diving down from the Midwest. You can see these darker blue shades, which indicate some heavy snow. On the warmer side of the system, you will experience mainly rain. But as it moves eastward, we will likely see some light to moderate snow across the Ohio Valley Sunday evening and into the northeast. It will be too warm for any snow farther to the south. Then, as we move into Monday morning, there is some atmospheric energy attempting to organize. You can observe some patches of blue on the map, indicating light snow as far south as Tennessee and even northern Georgia. We also have a chilly rain in the forecast as colder air moves into place. There is some energy trying to come together, and the system is trying to strengthen, but it does not quite manage to do so. Then, as we head into Tuesday, another clipper system will move through the Great Lakes region. This will bring more snow to the northeast, and then another clipper arrives, associated with a trough or a dip in the jet stream. This could produce some moderate to heavy snow. I must admit, I am hoping this system digs a little farther south to bring some snow to the mountains, as I will be there from next Wednesday through Sunday. It does, however, bring moisture all the way down to the mountains of North Carolina. This moisture will reach Tennessee in the form of what we call northwest flow snow showers. Then, another strong-looking clipper system is expected to arrive around this time next Thursday. All of these systems have the potential to track a little more to the south if this trough and its associated energy dig farther southward. However, the consistent theme you are seeing is a great deal of energy coming from the northern stream. We are not seeing any huge storm systems, but I do want to examine the 18Z model run that I briefly showed you a moment ago. Looking at Sunday morning, watch as something begins to happen here on Monday morning. Some energy is digging southward, trying to connect. We see some light snow across Kentucky on Monday morning, and oh, look at that! That is a new development. That will likely get the weather enthusiasts in North Carolina talking. But there is something coming together here. Snow begins to break out across parts of North Carolina, and we see some elements trying to align. The model shows some light snow in eastern areas of North Carolina. There is a phasing of energy trying to occur, and that is why the potential for a system early next week remains. It is just a possibility we need to watch. This is a situation we will have to monitor closely over the next couple of days, as something is clearly trying to develop. The American model, or GFS, continues to show a different solution. It indicates that strong clipper will likely bring moderate snowfall accumulations across the Midwest later this weekend and into late Sunday night. In fact, that model is showing some heavy snow. The American model suggests these elements will connect and develop into a significant snowstorm Sunday night and Monday morning across the Northeast. So, we will be watching this very carefully, as it is within the 100-hour forecast window. It does show a little bit of snow down into the central and southern Appalachian Mountains, but the pieces do not connect as they do on the European model. After that, we move into Tuesday and then into Wednesday. Here comes another very substantial clipper system diving in. That is a northern stream clipper with a pressure reading around 980 millibars, which is quite strong. We see all kinds of energy appearing across the eastern United States on Thursday morning of next week. Then, more energy dives in and actually tries to connect some of the dots around next Friday, the 12th, bringing some light to moderate snow to the mid-Atlantic. There is a great deal of activity in the forecast between now and the next 7 to 10 days, but there is nothing enormous on the horizon. We are not seeing any single model run showing a major blockbuster storm. That is what I am trying to convey. Now, regarding the 12-hour ensemble, which is a collection of forecasts to show possibilities, we can see periods of snow. You are going to see the overall pattern here. Here comes that first clipper diving in, showing the potential for some light snow dropping down into the upper southeast and the mid-Atlantic. Then, as we move forward, we see that larger clipper on Tuesday moving across the Great Lakes and the Northeast. And after that, the pattern becomes somewhat scattered. We can see a potential snow line dropping all the way down to Tennessee and North Carolina, with the Northeast seeing its share of activity. I believe this is a sign of a large trough that is going to move in. There is a lot of energy associated with it, but that does not guarantee that the energy will connect to form a larger storm system. And if we look at the period between this weekend and about 7 days from now, you can see the blue colors. The blue indicates lower pressure, and there is energy associated with this, which typically brings cold air. This represents a dip in the jet stream moving across the central and eastern United States. The warmer colors indicate a spiking of the ridge or high pressure. As we continue forward, we see this energy swing through early next week, followed by a reinforcing shot of cold air for the northern sections of the country. This will also bring some cold air down into the southeast. However, you can see that the trough, represented by the greenish area, is really pivoting over the Great Lakes and the Northeast. This tells me that a lot of energy is likely to dive in through this area, which supports what we have been showing you. These systems are not likely to dive much farther south in a pattern like this. However, as we continue into later next week, you see this large lobe of energy right here, and it digs more deeply. So there will be an opportunity, as we pause the map here on next Thursday, a week from today, for some of that energy to dig a little farther south. So, the question is, could a surprise system develop in this time frame? That would be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday of next week, as a significant dip in the trough and the jet stream occurs over the eastern United States. You can see it right here. Here are those elements we are watching. Let's back it up slightly. There's the energy we want to watch for late this weekend into early next week. Something is digging here, which reflects what we just saw on that latest European model run. That model showed what could happen, and then the general atmospheric flow begins to come predominantly from the northwest. Watch as I put this back into motion. But then, as we get into late next week, around this time, you will have some energy that has an opportunity to dig farther south as the trough deepens more aggressively. That could open the door for a possible storm system. The southern stream, or the subtropical jet, which brings moisture up from the Gulf, appears to be quite quiet. There is not a great deal of energy for the strong northern stream to pick up right now. Regardless, reinforcing shots of cold air are on the way. Now, as we move into Monday, you can see these purple colors appearing. Those indicate temperatures 20 to 25 degrees below average for your specific location in this area. So, for example, if your average high is 45 degrees and your high temperature is 20 degrees below average, then you can expect a high temperature in the 20s. So, as we continue, you will see this pattern persist. The below average temperatures are expected to persist, and then the atmosphere may moderate slightly before that large dip in the jet arrives once again late next week and next weekend. I believe that will be the key time frame of interest going forward. That reinforces the cold air, and even after 10 days, folks, the cold air remains, with another reinforcing shot showing up at the very end of the ensemble run. It looks as though a ridge of high pressure attempts to build here, and I know many people have been discussing a potential mid-month warm-up. I would say, not so fast. That ridge does not manage to build over the southeast or the eastern United States. Instead, another trough digs down right behind it. I am confident that the model guidance will continue to adjust colder because of the MJO progression. If you look at the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook, which covers the 10th through the 14th and was issued today, it still calls for below-average temperatures, shown here in blue. However, it does look dry for the southern tier of the country, while the northern tier appears set for a series of fast-moving clipper systems. Now, we go to the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook for the 12th through the 18th. As we get deeper into the month now, the forecast continues to call for below-average temperatures in the blue area. The darker that blue is, the higher the confidence that we will experience below-average temperatures. The pattern appears to be buckling a bit more, but for the most part, the colder pattern seems to be locked in place. For now, it appears the northern regions of the country will receive more precipitation, while the southern areas will see a bit less. However, all of this is subject to change, and these patterns can shift quickly. That is the latest update I have for you. Thank you for tuning in. I do hope you enjoy the snow that is expected tonight and into tomorrow. It should be a truly beautiful and festive snowfall. Please be reassured, this is not expected to be a debilitating snowstorm by any means. A manageable 2 to 4 inches of snow, for instance in Virginia in early December on a Friday, is a rather pleasant event. For those in communities like Roanoke, it is a perfect evening to settle in. We remain hopeful that our time for winter weather is coming for the deep south. I feel quite confident that it is. We just need to continue to be patient. Please remember, it is only December the 4th, and we have a long season ahead of us. That is my report for now. I wish you all a wonderful and safe night.